Hey everyone, it's That Nerd Ryan here, and welcome to the Legends vs. Canon podcast. So, I know we don't really usually have long episodes. We're probably not going to do that today. How's it going, Alex? Angie's here too for the people that are watching our live stream early. There we go. There's Ricardo. But yeah, so today we're going to be discussing basically what's been the hot thing right now with Star Wars Disney canon, the High Republic, versus what every Star Wars fan loves, the Old Republic. So here we go, guys. Ricardo's here. Say hi.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah, and then Angie's also here. She doesn't know about the High Republic at all. She might know a little bit about the Old Republic, but actually, Angie, if you want to read a kid's book, it's right here. So currently I'll just initiate about the High Republic right now. So currently there is 5 books out and 11 to 12 comics, depending on when this is released. We are short one, I know. For joining, I think you just hit request to join or something like that. So like if you jump back in, it'll ask you to request. I'm going to see if it actually went through. I am, for people who are watching on Instagram, I'm using my little Baby Yoda phone holder. So, yeah. There we go. Send request. There we go. I guess I could send requests too. Nice. Sorry for people that are listening to only the audio. We're still figuring out how to use Instagram Live, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so anyways, there's currently 5 books out and 11 to 12 comics. 6 of the just basic old Star Wars, the High Republic, and then as of right now, 5 of the High Republic adventures. There's also, the books are Race at Crash Point Tower, which I just currently finished. The Rising Storm, which I'm reading right now, I just started. Light of the Jedi, which was the first book. Test of Courage, which was the first kid's book. And then the first young adult book, Into the Dark. So it is just fletchling. Basically, it's on what's phase 1. If we're talking like Marvel, it's phase 1, wave 2. So like this would be, what is it? Like maybe Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2 in that sense, if we're looking at it from MCU standpoint. So we're still in the early phases, but there has been mentions of it throughout Disney canon, such as in the current Star Wars basic run of the comics, and in the the book Dooku Jedi Lost, which is technically still part of the High Republic area. It's on the tail end. But yeah, so how about you explain the Old Republic then?
Well, the Old Republic, the difference between the Old Republic happened thousands of years before not only the High Republic, but also like during the time when the prequels happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe the Old Republic takes place, not the High Republic takes place about, I think, 200 years
Yes,
before
200 years.
the prequels. One of the main differences that I noticed between is like the Old Republic, it's always constant. Back then, there was war happening everywhere. It doesn't matter between who, because also back then the Sith were more prevalent because that's when the Sith Empire was a lot more bigger than it was, because you had the rule of 2 get in place after a while during the Old Republic, and it was always constant fight between the Jedi, the Sith, and the Jedi and other factions of races that were always getting into war, because, like I said, that was beginning of the time when Jedi weren't really 100% peacekeepers at the time. Mm-hmm. They were more just trying to balance the force. That was all they cared about.
Right.
Whereas that switched to transition to becoming peacekeepers and happened towards the High Republic, because back then that's when, by that time, the whole wars of the Jedi and Sith really affected the Sith to the point where they're almost extinct. And there was more peace during that time, the High Republic, because the Sith had to go in hiding at the time to try to survive.
Exactly.
So, like the Old Republic, the Rule 2 happened, I think it was because of Darth Bane. So you had such prominent Sith like Darth Revan, Darth Bane, Darth Malgus, all the the big bads that's around in that time.
Right. And I think we actually are able to get Alex on this now. Hoping it works. Sorry, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. We do have another guest. There we go.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good, buddy.
I don't know if my computer was just not registering the chat, so I just put it on my phone.
Yeah,
Okay
that's what I'm using too. Is I'm just doing my phone and then recording with Audacity, so that way once this goes live in 2 Tuesdays, that way it'll just be the audio, and then people who haven't watched it are missing out for our reactions and stuff. But yeah, so I agree with you. With the Old Republic, the High Republic does take place about 200 years prior to Episode 1, and it goes up to about 50 years prior to Episode 1. There is a start and end. So far, the end is just Dooku Jedi Lost, which is a radio drama, I guess is a way to talk about it, even though there isn't radio. I have not listened to that, but I've read the script, I should say. Which, if you guys have ever read a script instead of a book, it's really weird. Because there's like no starting point on where to go. But the start of it, as of right now, also is Leia the Jedi. We also have down the pipeline the Acolyte, which is going to be exploring, from what I heard, what the Sith are doing in that time frame.
I have something to say.
Yeah.
The Acolyte, which is cool that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Because I think that Disney actually announced that they are exploring it with a show.
Yeah, it's going to be the show.
That is going to be awesome.
Yep. I think it's supposed to be in 2 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2023, I'm trying to remember. Yeah. But yeah, we have definitely, there's going to be a lot more books within that time frame that will very much flesh out the High Republic. I'm hoping that we will get more built on of what the galaxy's really looking like, because so far we only know that for whatever reason, basically the starting point with Leia the Jedi, it's the High Republic because they're at the height of their like popularity, existence sort of thing. And the Jedi are at the height of their power. Everything's great. And we actually see a lot of differences of how the Jedi act then compared to the prequels, which actually the chapter I was reading last night, they were saying how it's okay to have attachments to everything. It's okay to have feelings. Just don't let it consume you. Where you see in the prequels, it's like you can't have attachments, you can't have feelings, sort of thing, and that's all frowned upon.
For that,
yeah,
because like you said, it is 200 years before, the Clone Wars and such. The reason why I think they had all those, laid back rules was because they were at a time of peace.
Right.
So there was no conflicts happening.
Right.
So they would think, there's not much for them to be distracted from, so they can have their time to be attached and this and that. But if they go into a fight or a battle attached, they can use that with resentment.
Yep.
And fall to the dark side. So I think that's with a time with so much peace and no conflicts happening for a long time. I think that's why they were allowed to.
Exactly. Which they're even kind of bringing that up with a character named I don't know how to pronounce Trandoshan names. I think it's like Skier because it's 2 S's then Keer. He's a Trandoshan Jedi Master who really does kind of do a lot of dark sidey sort of things, and they're just kind of okay with it. I mean, not in like they're like, oh yeah, that's fine, just like kill that person or choke them out, sort of thing. But they're like, well, you need to kind of straighten out, but you're not going to be banned from the Order. And like stuff like that, which is
because, like I said, the Old Republic, they were more laid back in the sense since it was always a constant time of war, whether between the Sith, different alien races, everything. Like it was constant war, so they didn't. It was mindset of we bring balance to the Force. We need to bring it back, which means involves them fighting. If they have to kill as many Sith as they can to try to balance that Force, which that's what they believed at that time, that the Sith were the purest evil, that they need to be eliminated. And it's just like I said, between, even though it's thousands of years before, if it's, I remember 1,000 years of that mind process to, no matter what, if it's evil, we got to kill it. It doesn't happen over, 50, 100, 200 years for that mindset to change after the thousands of years of the wars that the Jedi were part of in the Old Republic. Because remember that, I think the Old Republic is the height of the Sith at the time before, we got after, with the prequels and the main story, main canon, because you had all, like I said, the big bad Sith. You had Darth Malgus, Darth Bane, Darth Revan. You had all the biggest Darth Vicious, all that stuff. You had all the biggest, baddest Sith at that time with how big the Sith was, the Empire was at that time. So like I said, it's just that mindset that they got in for those thousands of years of fighting the Sith, that a lot of the Jedi just passed on that mindset that if it's a danger to the Force, a danger to the light side, you got to kill it.
Yep. And there's still kind of like that with the High Republic. For example, I was actually going to, since you brought up villains, I was going to bring up villains next. So far, the two main focuses that we have are basically a band of pirate marauders called the Nile. And these, probably the weirdest thing I've seen, which, I haven't read most of Legends, so there's probably weirder stuff in there, but something called the Drengir, which, for those of you who don't know, the Drengir are a sentient plant species that are carnivorous and have a hive mind. They only care about eating humans or taking them over to being basically mindless zombies to
now we see where Halo gets the flood from.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with they're actually, honestly, they were introduced in a book called the book Into the Dark, which came out about a month ago, or 2 months ago, and they're horrifying. They're honestly, like, just reading about them gives me chills. Now, in the comics, it's different when you see them. They kind of look a little comical. But, like, in the books, they're just terrifying. And it's actually... so I guess they were either created by the Sith or found by the Sith during the Disney Old Republic era. And they were so out of control that they had to be contained within a space station. And the whole point of Into the Dark, spoiler alert, they accidentally released the Drengir. And it's just... they're a pretty good villain, but I honestly think the Nile are a lot better of villains. Just for the fact that... So, in Disney canon, hyperspace is pretty... It's been around, but hasn't been as accessible as it is during the High Republic. Now, the Nile are able to navigate through hyperspace in unheard of ways, using what's basically called the paths, which are founded by Lor San Tekka's ancestor, that they can basically go to hyperspace in planet orbit and go through all this other stuff, and they cause this great disaster that basically... I was describing... I've been talking with my ex, and so is Angie, and I was describing it to her about, like, what's going on in this series. And basically the Nile have been causing, for lack of a better term, 9/11 events, basically in every book that they've been in. So the first one, they pull a ship through hyperspace, cut it in half, or cut in half, basically a...
Republic ship, wasn't it?
Yeah, Republic ship. I'm trying to think of a good way to describe what it could be like in a layman's terms. It's basically a giant transport Voyager ship that's putting people to new places in the Outer Rim. Shatters it, and they're basically little insurgents coming through and just destroying planets. And then I'm only about 6 chapters into the Rising Storm, but Crash Point also gets into it too. There's supposed to be a Republic fair a year later, and people end up, or the Nile ends up just terrorizing it and throwing gas and bombing the entire fair. So they're more of a threat than the Drengir, just for the fact that nobody knows where they can be, and they're literally just there to destroy and plummet.
From the Republic?
For the most part, I mean, they know who the Nile are. They just don't know how to track them, and that's the scary part about them. And I don't know how much it's going to play out because, like I said, I just started the book. I'm a slow reader, so that's why I couldn't finish both the books before this podcast got shot. But
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Let me interject there.
Oh, you're
it's
good.
Crazy. They go 200 years apiece, and in my mind, I'm thinking, what made them, the Nile, all of a sudden think like, okay, we know the they would. I would imagine so. They would know the reputation of the Republic,
yes,
being so, the world is not in chaos. The world is, protected by the Republic. What made you think like the events lead to them to start terrorizing, knowing, they have the Republic, a mighty, powerful,
and that's why I'm excited for them to explore, because I know they've been hinting at it, like, because the guy that the Nile's system's a little confusing. Not as confusing as the Chiss Ascendancy, but still, basically the person that leads but isn't technically the leader of the Nile, Marchion Ro. He is the one that decided that they need to start attacking the Republic, and he's kind of been looking for dark side relics. It is confirmed that he's not a Force user, but I do have a feeling that there are probably Sith behind it pulling strings, being like, do this, do that. And I'm going to say it here. I'm probably going to be wrong, but I mean, it's the Star Wars fan in me, the prequel fan in me. I don't trust the Chancellor, which is Chancellor So. It feels like she's putting on all these very public events like Starlight Beacon, which was Phase 1, Wave 1, and now the Republic Fair, which Wave 2, that it's basically begging to be attacked. And I think basically me, just being the prequel fan that I am, is she's setting it up so it can get attacked. But, I mean, that's just my little theory.
Do you think she's working with the Sith? Like,
I think she's working with the Nile.
She's part of their organization.
I think she's working with the Nile, not the Sith. I don't think the Sith would be that ballsy yet.
No, well, the Sith around that time, like we even go to the prequels, they're in hiding right now.
Exactly.
So it's probably the time where Darth Plagueis is young.
Yeah. I think it's even before that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't think that they're ballsy enough to be like, hey, Chancellor So do this, or Chancellor So is a Sith. But I think they are doing something to pull the strings of the Nile, and that will be like the big twist in this. But I also think that Chancellor So is part of the Nile, or a unheard villain that haven't seen yet. Because, I mean, we're still in the baby era of the High Republic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm excited about? Like, I haven't really gotten into the High Republic, but the more I, read about it and stuff, it's going to be cool, because obviously we know at this time there is no, like I was saying, or they haven't been exposed for a while since they've had the fights and almost extermination of them, hundreds of years ago. It's going to be cool to see the Jedi, have different type of enemies than the ones that we always,
exactly,
the relevant Sith and Jedi fighting.
Yeah.
They're going to go about these conflicts differently because they aren't fighting the Sith.
Exactly.
Which is going to be cool because it's going to lead to more of the storytelling having to be more diverse than just, all right, the Sith want to take over. Let's, it's going to be cool to see that diversity.
Exactly. And
do you think they're going to, but now I don't know, do you think they're going to get heavily involved? Because you figure I think part of the Jedi's problem is, like, after all the fighting and the wars during the Old Republic, thousands of years, now they finally have peace. Do you feel even like they're gonna want to get 100% involved? Because wouldn't they have gotten laid back at this time with all this peace? Like, as this rolled over from the High Republic into the prequels, they were so laid back, they were ignorant and everything going around. Do you really think they're gonna want to get involved in all this with all this peace? Or do you think they said, well, if we don't get involved, we're gonna not disturb this peace that we have as Jedi ourselves? So it's like, do you even think they're gonna go that way, or do you think they're gonna just go back into it?
Well, interesting.
I think that the Nile Nihil is going to want to coax the High Republic to get into a conflict.
It's
I think
basically
that's
what they've been
happen, where
doing.
They're going to try to challenge their reign of, being the top dogs in the galaxy, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of what's been going on since I've been reading it. Everything that you guys said is basically right. So we get what's nice about reading is you kind of get into the minds of the characters. And a lot of the times, especially with Padawans, which a lot of these characters are Padawans or younglings, or we have what's, until Anakin, I guess I should say, considered the youngest Padawan to turn to a Jedi Knight. And all of them, they would either blow off their saber training or just think of it as ceremony and never like take it seriously because we're in peace. Why should we have to worry about it? And then there's a lot of stuff where they do just jump into action right away. I mean, the Great Disaster, which is the first thing that happened, that's understandable that they're jumping in and fighting. But then we have stuff like basically what's been going on in the comics where they're actively chasing down the Drengir to kill them and figure out a way to get rid of them. I think what they're seeing is they're realizing what's a threat and what isn't, because they did technically blow off the Nile. Because at the end of Light of the Jedi, the Marchion pulled a maneuver that made it look like the Nile were just suiciding themselves, and that was the only faction left, even though there's 3 other factions in the Nile out there. So they kind of just blew off the Nile, and they're like, we don't have to worry about chasing them down and executing them or anything. But these Drengir are a real threat. And so I think they're reluctantly fighting, but they're doing it for a way to, just end it and get back to peace.
I think they don't want to drag on the conflict, is what
Right.
it is.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
just want to be like, all right, let's just take care of this.
Yeah.
And back to what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to leave this with one question for you guys. And actually, this is going to be a 2-parter podcast because Ricardo didn't get to really talk that much about the Old Republic. So we'll have the second half be the Old Republic. But my question is, because I think, if I remember right, the Mandalorian Wars were not in the Old Republic area. They're more closer to the prequels. Do you guys think that we'll explore that in the High Republic, the Mandalorian Wars?
No.
No? All right. Ricardo, what do you think?
I don't think so.
I mean, there's a possibility. It's just because, like you said, it didn't exactly take
Oh, Ricardo's breaking in.
place in the Old Republic, but it was with.
Yeah, it was.
So I think it's going to take place between like the Old Republic and the High Republic. Not sure. I mean, they could do it, but
Yeah.
it depends on how they're going to incorporate it into the High Republic.
Right.
Because if it doesn't take place during it, and it doesn't take during the Old Republic, it's like, well, when exactly during that time period does it take place?
Exactly. So, like, I'm thinking that they might. This is my personal thought because of how popular Mandalorians have become with The Mandalorian and with Clone Wars Season 7 and kind of with Bad Batch 2, I guess, because the clones are technically Jango Fett, which is technically a Mandalorian. I have a feeling they'll find some way to work it in, or at least, like, reference it or something. But I don't know if they're going to fully explore it. But I have a feeling because of how popular Mandalorians have become, they're going to find a way.
The Mandalorian War.
Mm-hmm. You're breaking up,
Sorry.
Alex. I'm sorry.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. You're breaking up. That's the only thing.
You said I was breaking up?
Yeah. I think I might be in a bad area or something like that.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I think it's me because I'm getting circles for both of you guys. So I think it's my fault. Yeah. So go ahead. Try to say something if it doesn't cut you off, I guess.
Oh, you're good. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Okay. You're good?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, so Revan was around the time of the Mandalorian
Right.
War, so I don't think they'll it's too close to. Yeah, I heard though I know we're onto Old Republic. I forgot to ask that question earlier because everybody that was the big selling point. They're like, oh yeah, by the way, in the High Republic, Yoda will be in it.
Yes, and Yoda's really only in it for the High Republic Adventures comics. He's mentioned in everything else, but it's kind of like a passing mention. It's not like he's actually there. It's kind of like how Luke is in Aftermath, where it's just like, oh yeah, there's, he just appeared. But yeah, in the High Republic Adventures, he's more focused on and actually actively going after Marchion Ro, which is pretty interesting. But we haven't really seen him do much except for kind of like usher the younglings. Yeah. But yeah, so that'll wrap up part 1 for this podcast. Next month we'll do part 2, which is actually talking about the Old Republic, and then coming to a conclusion. We really went off on a tangent today. Sorry, guys. But yeah, so it's that nerd Ryan.
It's all right. No, that's good. That's what we want. We want
more in-depth stuff. Yeah. So joining me were Ricardo and Alex. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all that fun stuff. Make sure you guys follow Ricardo and Alex on Instagram. Your guys' Instagram accounts are...
Go ahead.
Mine's Arcalindo27.
Mine's simple. Sinister Shot 1.
Yep, so make sure you guys follow them as well. I hope everybody has a great day. And remember, we're all Jedi Masters on the inside. It's that nerd Ryan signing off.